Our little boy, Caleb, he has trisomy 18, or what we call Edwards syndrome. So what the doctors told us was that very few, not even 1% actually survive. Most of them die in utero. Some of them are born, but they have a very, very short lifespan, and hardly any make it even to 1 year old. Hi, I'm Hannah, and my husband is Yipeng, and we have 2 girls, Kara and Kate. They are 7 and 5 years old this year. Sometime in the middle of 2019, I discovered that we were expecting another third one. So we found out sometime in late October, November, during my 20-week scan. We're expecting a little boy, but he had many multiple issues. So at this initial scan, the doctors found out that there was a problem with the brain. There were multiple problems with the heart, with the abdomen, and he had the cleft lip. And I still remember that day I was just looking at the ultrasound scan and hearing these news from the doctor, and bad news after bad news while he was scanning. And I was trying to hold back the tears, and I was wondering, oh God, what are you doing? And then we did amniocentesis tests to find out exactly what was it. Then the results came back very quickly. Our little boy, Caleb, he has trisomy 18, or what we call Edwards syndrome. So what the doctors told us was that very few, not even 1% actually survive. Most of them die in utero. Some of them are born, but they have a very, very short lifespan, and hardly any make it even to 1 year old. So Caleb's condition would be considered a bit more severe, given his multiple abnormalities. And I remember I didn't know what to do. I left the clinic that morning, the doctor's room, and then I just sat there with my husband, and I was like, I started to sob, I started to cry. And every day from that day onwards, I asked God, I said, God, what are you doing with my life? Why are you messing with my life? Why is it that people can have normal kids, and why is this happening? Yeah, so I remember I cried. I cried for days. I didn't know what to do. I honestly struggled with whether we should terminate Caleb or not. It was one evening I felt the Lord speak. The first time, after 1 week of just all these feelings of anger, feelings of struggles with the Lord, and asking Him, what are you doing? And then the Lord spoke very clearly, very gently, but yet in a very firm way. And He just said, Hannah, this is not a mistake. Caleb is not a mistake. You are not a mistake. And I remember I just sobbed, because I knew deep down in my heart that God is saying, keep him and love him, and He has a plan. And so Yipeng and I decided that we will keep Caleb, and we will fight for this little child of ours for as long as the Lord wills. So Caleb was born on the 19th of February 2020. He came into this world with just a little whimper, and he was taken away quickly to the NICU. And I only got to see him the next day. He spent 2 weeks in hospital. The doctors told us 1 week after his birth that no amount of surgery or any procedure would help. We were thinking about how we could save him, how we could prolong his life, and we didn't know what God was going to do. But the prognosis came 1 week after his birth that he had a very complicated abnormality of the heart, and nothing could be done. And that was quite a pivotal point, because in my journey I had clung on to some form of hope that God, you might still save him, you might still heal him. And I received the news alone that day, and I went out of the NICU, and I just started crying, and I called Yipeng. I was like, what should we do? And Yipeng said that this is God's mercy to Caleb and to us, because we were struggling so much about how we should help him, how much intervention we should be doing. So the next step was, do we bring him home or not? With the great struggle, we decided to bring him home at 2 weeks old. So he spent 5 weeks with the family. It was a tremendously difficult 5 weeks of my life. But yet there was so much joy, at the same time so much pain, and there was so much fatigue, I would say. Having to care for him throughout 24 hours. So Ipong and I took turns. I'll do during the day, he would do the nights. And every day I'll go to bed and I wonder, will I see my child again? And it was hard because it was 5 weeks of loving 100% and yet preparing for his death anytime. So by then it was already more than a year of crying and all, going through the pain, and I was just thinking and telling God, like, okay, how much more can this pain get? But I think it never prepared me for the day that he passed on. So Caleb came home for 5 weeks, and on the 8th of April, I remember clearly because it was the second day of Singapore circuit breaker. It was just past midnight when I went into the room because after midnight I always go in for my last feed and last cleanup. And I found that he wasn't breathing. And I was a bit shocked because I was like, okay, what's happening? Is this it? So I called Ipong. I was like, come, can you help me check? Maybe I'm not seeing correctly. So we checked his chest, and then he had a mask and all the tubes, right? We checked, he wasn't breathing. So I was a bit of a loss of what to do. I'm like, okay, we better call the doctor. So I remember I went into the kitchen and I sat down on the floor and I called, and then a guy picked up, and then he said, how can I help you? And I think I only could say a few words. I said, my son is not breathing. And then they said, okay, we're going to send help. But at that moment, I think nothing could prepare me for death. When it came knocking at our door, nothing could prepare me for... I don't even know how to describe that pain. It's a searing loss. A very, very deep searing loss. And I remember I really wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, but I was like, okay, I didn't want to wake my girls who were sleeping. I didn't want to wake the neighbors. And so we just... I was just stifling the sobs, and I was like, God, is this it? Is this it? So we went through so much, and like, that is it, I couldn't accept that he had just died. I couldn't accept that God did not answer our prayers for healing. And I think in the midst of that darkness and all, at the same time, I felt like someone was holding me up and lifting my heart, and like, somehow I was very, very, very sad, but I wasn't crushed. Yeah, so we went on to have a very quick cremation service. And then within 24 hours, we were home. I cleared up the room. And we were all stuck at home because it was circuit breaker. And honestly, I didn't know what to do, how to live. But I said, okay, let's just get on with our day. So day by day, get up, get meals ready, settle my 2 girls. They were already 5 and 3 by then. And I didn't know how to answer my questions when my daughters would ask me, so where is Caleb now? And then they will still go to his cot and they were like, good morning, Caleb, or like, good night, Caleb. And it was very, very heartbreaking. I think shortly after, it was close to the Easter season, and it was Easter morning. I can't remember exactly which day, but I think it was a few days after. I remember I woke up on Easter morning. I went into Caleb's room, and I was just looking at the cot and just imagining, what it's like if he was there. And I felt a very inexplicable sense of peace that just came upon me. And I remembered the song, Because He Lives. And it says, because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future. and life is worth the living just because He lives. And the whole message of the cross just came out at me, and I was like, Hannah, you are going to see Caleb again, because I have died and I have risen and I have conquered death. And for the first time in my many years of my Christian journey, the message of Easter was just birthed anew for me. And there's just so much power in Jesus' death and resurrection. And I know that Caleb is made new and restored with Jesus right now. He's alive. He's living a life free of pain, free of tubes and masks. And as much as it pains our family, because I'll never be able to see him again, I know that one day I'll be able to see him in heaven.